morning, Year 8. I hope you've all had a restful weekend and are ready for this week's work. This week we are focusing on comparing non-fiction. And for your first lesson this week, you need to firstly reread The Sleeping Teenage Brain. Now this is going to just be on slide 2, so if you just scroll down, you should be able to see it. And this is an extract that you might be familiar with because we have actually done this in week 1 of Brainwaves. So you just need to reread it and re-jog your memory and get a gist of what this extract is about. Once you've done that, we need to now reread The Unconscious Machinery of the Brain, which is also something that you've looked at in week 2 of Brainwaves, and you just need to scroll down to page 5 to see this. So on page 5, again, you're going to just be doing the same thing, just trying to re-jog your memory and get a gist of what this extract is about. Once you've reread both extracts, you need to now come up with 5 points using quotation that show that one text is written for children and that the other is aimed at adults. So there's a couple of things that you can basically comment on in order to try and understand exactly how to figure out which one is definitely aimed at children, which one is definitely aimed at adults. So you can focus on tone. So think about which one sounds more serious or which one sounds more conversational. Another thing that you can focus on is the information, how the information is being presented to us. And you could also think about your own experiences when reading both extracts. So you could think about which one seemed easier to read to you and which one did you find more engaging, which one used more complicated language and which one used words that wasn't so easy to understand. Once you have done that, please try and find quotes that could also back up your points. And that would be you done with lesson 12. When you're moving on to lesson 13, we are again looking at the extracts, but this time we are focusing on the unconscious machinery of the brain only. So we're going to choose a section from this and we are going to try and rewrite it so that it appeals to children aged 10 to 11. And what we need to do here is we need to think about which section we'd like to rewrite. So you can either focus on the introduction, for example, or you can focus on the part where it talks about Ian's experiences on nerve damage. And you need to think about how you're going to suit this to your new audience, which is children aged 10 to 11 now. So you basically need to think about exactly how you'd want to kind of think about Ian's experiences or think about introducing the new topic itself and how you're going to appeal to your new audience. So remember that these children are going to be younger than you, so you need to simplify it and then simplify it even further. If we're trying to break this down, let's look at language firstly. So you can focus on the different words that you want to use. How would you use more complicated terms in more simpler terms for your new audience? You could also think about tone in terms of how you'd want to make your extract sound. So would you want to make it more conversational? Would it sound more serious? So think about aiming it to your tailored audience. The next thing that we focus on is sentence structure. So think about using more shorter sentences or simple sentences to try and get your point across in the least confusing way for your target audience. Another thing that you can think about is, of course, the layout. So you might want to use bullet points, you might want to use text boxes, and you may want to use images or pictures to try and depict an image that kind of shows exactly what you're talking about in a very simple way that would tailor to your audience. Once you have done that, you are now on lesson 14. So lesson 14 is you focusing on essay structures, and you are basically going to be attempting to do 2 sets of paragraphs, and SETA is basically compare, evidence, technique and analysis. So you are going to be comparing the sleeping teenage brain and the unconscious machinery of the brain. So you're going to be focusing on either a similarity or a difference between them, and you're going to try and aim to do 2 sets of paragraphs on this. So your task is to write 2 sets of paragraphs just like this one. And I will read the model paragraph in a second. And what you need to do is you need to use the following sentence starters to explain any similarity or difference you like between the texts. You can compare what the texts are about, who they're aimed at, and how they use language or anything else that you can think of. So this is the model paragraph, and I will very quickly read it out to you. So you can try and use this to help you in order to think about exactly how you want to present yours, and you can use these sentence starters below to help you. Okay, so it says, Source A uses an informal tone to appeal to teenagers, while source B is more formal and sophisticated. In source A, the author writes, "I'm afraid you won't like this one, but evidence suggests when parents set a bedtime that teenagers get more sleep." The use of direct address in "you won't like this one" creates a humorous, intimate tone, presenting the information in a relaxed conversational way that will appeal to teenage readers. Contrastingly, source B is much more formal. For example, the author writes, "Ian is highly cognizant of the miraculous coordination that most of us take for granted." The adjective cognizant presents Ian and the author as sophisticated and technical. The adjective miraculous presents the human brain and body as supernaturally complex. So this is the model paragraph that you can use, and this is the task below that you will need to complete. Please do try and use this layout in terms of sentence starters to help you. And yep, so you are aiming to try and do 2 paragraphs that look very similar to this. Okay, thank you so much, and I really hope this was really helpful. Please do let your teachers know if you need any more help or further guidance on this, and I will see you next time.